I think I've learned more in the 6 months that I've been at Haast than I did at 2 years at Amazon because I have more. Junior engineers are often not worth the salary you pay them because they take away time from the senior engineers. Since I've worked at Amazon, I've almost had a recruiter in my LinkedIn inbox every week. If you aim for perfection every time, you end up slowing down. I don't want to get stuck working on a month on something that's tiny feature. I want to work for a month on a variety of different projects that have huge scopes and you're thinking of it. When you're a junior, it's really important that you actually work through step by step the problem rather than have. If I was doing my own project, I would refrain from using AI because the actual learning comes from doing it yourself. You never want to be in a situation where it's going to take you a month to prove whether you're right or wrong. Fail fast, iterate fast. The key advice is to really upskill yourself and differentiate yourself through projects.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of The Diary of a Developer. Today we have a software engineer who is currently working in Sydney and who have more than 4 years of experience as a software engineer. The interesting part we want to share here today is how did he crack the job in AWS and also how is he navigating the current software engineering role, especially in AI world. So it's going to be really fun and exciting conversation, guys, and let's get started. So David, welcome to the show.
Great to be here.
Okay.
Thank you.
David, can you please share more about yourself?
Yep. My name is David. I've been a software engineer for about 5 years now. I've been full stack for about 3 of those years and then 2 of those years at AWS, where I was primarily just a backend engineer, where I had experience doing like infrastructure as well as just regular backend kind of stuff.
Many software engineers, especially computer science students, dream is to crack into FAANG company, and you have done that. And also you move from there and then find better place to work that satisfies you more as a senior engineer. So I want to talk all about that. I want to know basically your journey, how you even started from beginning as a computer science student and how you have been progressing your career. So who is right now listening is studying, let's say, computer science or IT, and they want to follow your path. Maybe if they can resonate with you in some instance, they learn something from you and take some value from you and reduce their struggle, speed up their job landing process. So tell me more about your current role and day-to-day, how it likes as a senior software engineer that you're working at Haast. And then we'll go back to the beginning, how you started, and then we'll talk more later about the AWS as well.
Yep. Okay. So my kind of day-to-day, I'm a senior software engineer at Haast. What that means in my day-to-day, I do a lot of project scoping. I do a lot of product work as well as software engineering work. That means scoping out the work, figuring out what tickets need to be made, managing delivery, working with product managers, working with design, working with all stakeholders involved, as well as some more junior engineers or mid-level engineers, delegating tasks out, as well as working on proof of concepts and other things to ensure that the direction of the project is set correctly. I do also, with a kind of small developer team, I work a lot on the delivery. So that's just from start to finish, just ensuring that the project that I've been given is finished to completion.
That's great. So you see a lot of the corporate world here, right?
Yeah.
And I know I deal with a lot of IT students and recent computer science graduates. So they don't even know this concept a lot, like a project scoping, right? For example, these are the words. So just to simplify, very simple in layman term, right? As a senior software developer, what do you do? And what it like to be working as a senior software engineer if somebody is aspiring for it?
I guess in like very simple terms, it's solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
It's figuring out who has the problem, how do you solve that problem, and how do you ensure that problem is solved in a way where customers are happy and the software can be evolved in a way so that, you know, you're still able to maintain the system and ensure that customers will be happy still 3 months down the line, 6 months down the line, and a year down the line.
Okay, so another question. Again, I'm really putting myself in the shoes for junior engineers, right? So that whole podcast is about helping them go from junior to from student to junior developer, junior to senior developer. So let's go more in detail. So a lot of students don't even know what this problem means. We always tell them you need to become a problem solver. But what does problem means to them?
Yeah, so a problem can range from a new feature, a bug, or even just like user interface, user experience kind of issues. It's a huge range of things that a problem could be. What you have to do in your day-to-day to solve problems is really figure out like what the customer pain point is. It's always about customer obsession. You'll hear that from a huge range of companies. Amazon obsesses about customer obsession.
True.
A lot of like smaller scale-up startups, they all talk about customer obsession. At the end of the day, when you're solving a problem, you're always solving a problem for the customer. So really put yourselves in their shoes and figure out, why is this an issue for them? And then you have to figure out how do you go about solving that. Now, that's the tricky part, and that's where your experience as like an engineer or really like a person in general comes into play. You need to be able to know like what does the person whose pain point is being experienced, why is that coming about? I think that's the big thing, like why.
Okay. So just to simplify that, can we say problem is basically when we go for work in the company have some task that was basically given by the customer. So the company's job as a developer job is to do the task they have asked to do. And doing the task itself is one bigger problem. And after completing that task, other problem comes that doesn't exactly do what it's supposed to do. And that is a bug.
Yeah.
In another word.
Yeah.
And then that thing needs to be solved.
Yeah.
So how would a person who never worked in the industry know or experience such a thing?
As a person who's never worked in the industry before, what I did personally was I figured out what kind of problems I had in my day-to-day, and I tried to solve them using code. What that meant for me, I was a computer science and commerce student, and I took a lot of finance courses. In finance, you have plenty of formulas that exist, and I'm not a very good formulas person. I have never been good at math. So I really just made calculators using code to help me do my finance problems. I'd define the variables and enter it into my calculator, and it would spit out the correct answer. This is a problem that I had. I broke it down. I was like, how can I solve this problem using the skills that I'm learning in my computer science courses? And essentially, I think that's the best way to go about it. Really figure out what pain points you have in your life and try to automate it. Try to figure out how to make it better, how to solve your own problems. If you're the customer, you're the easiest person to solve for.
Okay. That's a great advice, guys. Basically, you want to become a problem solver, then take advice from David. What is the problem you currently have? And then how can you document that and write down the process to solve it and even solve it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of misconception around in order to become a software developer, not even engineer, let's say, let alone the great engineer, you have to be a math genius. So you just said you're not really good at math. So can you explain that? And then how do you help people break that mindset barrier?
Yeah, I think, I honestly think mathematics and like coding are two completely different areas, I guess. I feel like coding is much more to do with like logic flows and stuff like that. Whereas a lot of the things that you will learn in math are about abstract thinking. The abstract thinking is more useful as you kind of grow into like a senior, but that's not necessarily still math. It's just more the application of logic. It's more abstract. On a whole baseline level, don't really need to be good at math to do coding. It's really about, thinking about your problems in a logic flow. And logic flow isn't necessarily math, but they're very tightly coupled. Like if you are good at math, you're likely going to be good at logic flows, but I'm not good at math, but I am good at logic flows. I think in university, for all of my math courses, I think I got around like barely a pass.
Oh, okay.
But then for like data structures and algorithms courses, where I found it more to be like logical and that kind of thing, I was averaging like 90s and stuff like that. So it's very much two different kind of skill sets, but often they're coupled, and people think that they're coupled when really, if you're good at logic flows, you'll be a great programmer.
Okay. Hey, you guys, another tip. If you are holding yourself back because you think that you need to be extremely good at math to become a software developer, there you go. You don't need to be one. And I am good at math. I love math, and everything else, mine is average. So I'm from another side as well. And what I have seen, the people who is not good at math, but extremely good at logic flow is they have that imagination very strong visionary imagination power. Do you have that imagination power to think through, or you can close your eyes and then walk through the process
Yeah.
and then come to the solution before you do go to the drawing board? How do you think through the problem?
Yeah, usually when I visualize a problem, it very much is a process. In my head, it's mostly like a flow diagram where I just think, if this happens, then this, then that, then that. And I can draw out like a pretty large plan in my head, and then I'll go and write it out. I think usually when it comes down to it, the solutions that I come up with in my head might be missing a few bits and pieces, but they can all be fixed. I get the main logic flow pretty down pat.
Yeah. I love that too, because that's what I do most of the time. First, I do that, and I have pen and paper. Probably have seen that on my table as well. And then that goes on to the paper first before it goes to a digital space.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, that's another way to learn solving problem. Is usually what I tell my students is that if you are working building some specific feature, you need to know what is the input, you need to know what is the output. And when you sit down and close your eyes, can you see the data moving through each function? Not even that. Think about converting that into the binary and converting into the electricity and surging through the wire. Go as deep as possible so that it will take you to completely different mind space. And that will, like, if you see there is two wire is not connected, then there is a bug you're going to encounter.
Yeah.
So I really like to follow that as well. And glad we have that similarity. Tech changes fast. How do you keep yourself skill fresh and avoid feeling left behind?
I think this is a huge thing when you're in a current role. When you have a day-to-day job, it's very easy to get engrossed into like your day-to-day, only work on the tickets that you've been assigned and not really explore much further than that. But I think it's really important to both you and the organization that you work for that you stay up to date in like latest trends, latest technologies, because realistically, that's how you keep your edge. Great example of this is, I guess, like with AI, tons of people are using like AI tools these days. Being on top of like what's new, what's the best is really important to keeping your productivity high. And yeah, I just think it's really important to especially now with like Google doing a ton of innovation, with Anthropic doing a ton of innovation. It's really important that you stay on top of what's happening. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck writing code manually when everyone else is using AI to write 90% of the code and then fixing up 10%. One's obviously way faster than the other. And if you're cutting 10% as much tickets as other people, you're going to get left behind.
So how do you manage the time, especially when you're working full time?
Yeah.
And let's say family, I believe you don't have kids yet.
Not yet.
So in that perspective, people already have a lot of pre-commitments. How one should manage the time? How do you manage that time to upskill yourself?
Yeah. I personally do not think it's possible to work for 8 hours focused time in a row. I think maybe 20% of my day I'm spending doing researching or experimenting with newer libraries, stuff like that. So I pretty much break down my workday in, like, I'll assign some of my workday to not my day-to-day, but towards learning. I'm sure your organization is going to be happy with that, especially if you bring new technologies in. If you think about it, if you discover a library which can solve a problem for your organization, rather than writing it in-house, you can probably save months of time. Whereas if you decide to just write it in-house because you don't have the knowledge of that library that exists, then you would be writing code that's probably worse, probably less efficient, and probably would take your company months to write when a ready-made solution is already out there.
That's true. Should every company advocate some dedicated time for a developer?
Yeah.
How many percent of their time?
I would say about 20%.
I think a lot of large companies, they do already. As far as I know, even like Google, they have like 1 day or half a day allow developer to do explore and do their own project.
Yeah. At AWS, we had 1 day every 2 weeks where you just spent it learning, and then you would come back and discuss with your team what you were researching or what you were learning, and then potentials for integration within the software stack.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Yeah, that's how the innovation happens, right?
Exactly.
A lot of product in Google actually built like that.
Yeah, Google Maps.
Google Maps is one of them. Yeah. So what makes a good software engineer?
I think contrary to popular belief, I don't think it's your coding skill. I don't think it's how fast you work. I don't think it's how much time you put in. I really think the best things for a engineer to be effective in the workplace is one, communication. It's really important that you are communicating with both your senior engineers and stakeholders what's happening. If you can't communicate with them, then they don't know what's happening. They will miscommunicate to customers and you lose trust. The most important thing is trust. So that's why I always think communication is the most important thing. Again, if you're communicating well, you're learning more. So the second thing I would say is being very open to learning and having an open mind when it comes to software development. Forming very rigid opinions about software, I think is unhealthy. So I've seen plenty of very opinionated engineers who might follow best practice.
Me too.
Yeah.
And
I feel like those kinds of engineers are often the worst to work with, because if you can do something that's good enough, I feel like that's perfect. If you aim for perfection every time, you end up slowing down. And I think that's bad when it comes to software development in general. I don't want to get stuck working on a month on something that's a tiny feature. I want to work for a month on a variety of different projects that have huge scopes and you're thinking big. So I think communication, being open-minded to learning and open-minded to not doing what's perfect, but doing what's good enough. I think just those two things.
Okay, sure, no problem.
The most important thing.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I always tell about the students. So basically, I have a framework for my student how they should go from not knowing anything to land the job. I just make a diagram for you so you know what I people can see as well. So I have this EOC framework. So what EOC framework says, that's I came up after working many years helping students. It means you need to gain experience on working on tech stack. Without experience, you will not get a job. So even you don't have a commercial experience, you can still gain development experience through the project.
Yeah.
Then other thing is you need to know how to get job offer without relying too much on job board. Nowadays there are not much job in the job board. See, most of the roles are pre-filled and filled through the recommendation and reference. And the third one is the communication. That's what I prioritize. And you have to have a communication. Now, can you help computer science student or somebody who is struggling how they should approach these communication skills?
I think in terms of communication as an engineer, there's a few important principles that I think you follow. The first is ask a lot of questions. I know a lot of staff engineers, senior engineers love to teach and mentor junior engineers. So if you are a junior engineer, don't be afraid to ask questions that you think might be stupid. Try to learn from those around you. And I think if you're early in your career and you don't have people to learn from, you're in the wrong workplace. That's number one. Number two, I think, is when you're asked by management to come up with deadlines and stuff like that, like estimate your work. I think something that I need to tell myself all the time and something that I struggle with, but I know is really important, is to always over deliver and under promise. It's always better to say it will take something will take longer and then deliver early than say something will be delivered early and then deliver it late. So always under promise, over deliver. It'll always make you look better in the workplace. The third thing is just having the initiative. So really what's important is if someone has asked you to do something, letting them know without them having to ask again is probably really important, because if someone has to follow you up, that just means you're taking extra mental capacity from them. I know that for me, if I have asked a more junior engineer to do something and they tell me when it's done, or as they've completed it, they tell me, hey, I've created the pull request, it's ready for review, rather than me having to go to GitHub and then check pull requests and then check and then me seeing it's not there and then asking for an update. I much prefer them just update me themselves. It's a lot more helpful. So being I guess the takeaway there is to over communicate rather than under communicate.
That's really great advice. Definitely, because last time when I was talking to people for hey, we have a student, do you want to hire? I do that pretty much daily basis, reaching out company, trying to find place to place our student. And then the first thing they ask is, how's the communication skill? That's extremely important. It's if you can effectively communicate your work, then you're going to slow down all the team. entire team member, basically. Like as you said, if you have to go keep following up the junior engineers, like that's gonna break your flow of the day. Not only time spent for that unnecessary thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And another thing you said, that something I really believe is asking question. First, asking question is great, but if you know how to ask the right question, that will make you a great communicator. Don't underestimate the communication skill. Is extremely important for your interview, for your workplace, and for your growth as well.
Yeah. I think just to add one more thing, I think it's really important. I think you mentioned like companies really care about the communication skills. And the reason for that, if people are curious, is that junior engineers are often not worth the salary you pay them because they take away time from the senior engineers.
True.
Your senior engineers are the people who really push the product along. But the reason you hire junior engineers is because you have the belief that they can grow into senior engineers. That's really the reason why you hire them. And so communication and the ability to learn and the amount of questions they ask are key indicators for whether they will grow into that senior engineer. Because if you're someone who doesn't ask questions and doesn't communicate, you will often be stuck at where you are and you won't grow into the potential that you have.
Very, very much agreed with you. And on the top of that, I want to share this with you. A lot of IT students or computer science students, they think about the internship. I want to just get into it because you said the valuable time of senior engineer, right? There's a lot of people who believes that they don't have a skill, but they should be paid for the internship because they are going to do the work for the company. I said, look, first thing first, if you go and work for the company already gonna need to invest a lot in terms of their system and engineer and everything. And if you have nothing to contribute, why should company hire you?
Exactly.
And then a lot of people have like a big debate. Should you do paid internship versus unpaid internship? So, but what you get after the internship is like very valuable for your own experience. Can you share your opinion about this internship itself, the skill they need prior to it, and also paid versus unpaid?
Yeah, I think it's a complicated issue.
It is.
I think in terms of like unpaid internships versus paid internships, I think if you have the privilege, like you're supported by your family, you don't need to have a job that pays you, then taking an unpaid internship is completely fine. I know that for my first job, it was paid, but it was not paid very much. I think I was getting about 40K prorated. So I was part-time, and so I was about 20K per year, basically. But I was working part-time. That's a pretty good gig, but I would have done that for free.
That's the important message.
Yeah, so I have parents. I lived with them at the time, so I didn't need to have a job that paid me money. So if I'm in that position, I would take an unpaid internship. But if you have kids or like you need the money to survive, then I think you have to find something that's paid. I think that makes sense. But if you're at the very beginning of your career, it's definitely worth the experience to just, if you have the means to, take an unpaid internship and it's fine.
Okay. So one quick question. Would you rather do 3 months unpaid job now, part-time unpaid job, and get let's say, increase your chance to land the job in next 6 months, or wait for 1 year to get the junior role?
I would obviously take the unpaid internship.
Yes, a lot of people, they don't realize that. So that's why I said, if you can afford to, like as you said, you have privilege. I use afford word because it hits harder. If you can afford to do the internship because you learn the real thing, that gives you like credibility. What's your next role, right? That's a great advice. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the junior part or internship part or early part of the career. So I want to go back in your timeline, and then I want to start talking about how did you even start it, like where you started thinking like you want to become a developer or engineer. Can you go back and then share your early days so that if somebody is right now in college, how they should think if they want to get into the engineering world? Yeah. So tell me about your early days. Like, how did you start it?
Yeah. So I guess it starts when I graduated high school, decided to go to university. I initially wanted to go to university to become a lawyer.
Oh, okay. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So I did just commerce. I did not get a high enough ATAR to make it into law.
Okay.
So
Is there such a thing? I didn't know, honestly.
yeah, you have to get a high enough mark in the high school exams to become a lawyer.
Really? Okay,
so-
because I didn't do high school in Australia, so I didn't know that. That's something I just learned.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So wanted to go to law school, didn't make it in. My dad told me to take computing fundamentals. I said, okay, I'll try it. But this was only in my second year of university, basically.
In commerce.
In commerce. So I had done zero computing before that. And then I really loved the introduction to programming course. And so I decided to transfer instead of to law. I had the marks to transfer into law, but I instead went into computer science and commerce.
Why?
I thought it made sense to me. I got really good marks as well. So
Is that the marks, because of the marks, or you inheritedly enjoy computing?
I think both. It's like I was good at it, so it was more fun.
Yeah, usually people avoid the hard thing and love the thing that is more enjoyable. So
Yeah. So I went with the thing that I was good at. I felt really behind because I was starting the first year courses when I was already in my second year.
okay.
And so because I felt really behind, I actually decided to start doing some self-learning. First app that I made was a Chrome extension, which was just used to be a homepage, and it was so that I could track my own learning goals. I think everyone's first project is always a to-do app.
Yeah.
And that was my first project, a to-do app on Chrome extension.
Oh, that's great to start with.
Yeah, so that was my very first thing. It taught me some stuff to do with JavaScript. While in university, I was still doing stuff with C, assembly, and that kind of thing in the very basic courses for comp sci. After that, I basically spent a year doing the comp sci courses and was applying for internships.
So during the university?
Yeah, during university, I was doing internships. I was applying for internships, and I was still working on various projects on the side. Any kind of problem that I had, I tried to solve using computing.
Good.
I thought it was a super powerful tool without even knowing, any of the more complex structures like Node or anything like that, or the cloud. I just tried to use my basic C programs to, solve problems. I remember.
So you write everything in C. That's not easy. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's not easy to work with.
Yeah, the computer programming fundamentals course at UNSW is in C. So it's the only language I knew at the time.
Okay.
But I remember Christmas in that year, we were doing a Secret Santa, and instead of using the online, Secret Santa, pairings or emails, instead I wrote a C program to randomize, a list of people and figure out who had who and make sure that no cycle existed in a graph. And that was my first experience doing a graph traversal problem.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't even experienced that in my university courses yet, but I already tried it because I was already trying to solve the problems that I had or anything that I encountered in real life. And I think that's a really powerful thing because now when you get to the courses for data structures and algorithms, you already know what a graph traversal is because you've tried to solve the problem. So I then, did the courses. I did data structures and algorithms. I did all the other algorithms courses, and I did really well because I had already experienced a lot of these things. Maybe I didn't have the optimal solution, but
brute force solution.
Yeah, I had a brute force solution, and often in your interviews for data structures and algorithms, the brute force solution is enough to get you through.
Yeah, I think I even advise you always say brute force method.
Yeah,
and then you get to express you understood the problem. Then followed by if I have a time.
Yeah,
and if I need to optimize, and that's why you go with the optimized solution.
Exactly. Start basic, understand the problem first, and then brute force it. If you have time, optimize it. After you brute force it, they will follow up by saying, can you optimize this anyway?
Exactly. Why?
Or have you tried this way? Usually they'll follow up, and going for the brute force solution basically ensures that you'll pass that stage of the interview.
You said you applied for internships?
Yeah.
What happened to them?
I think I got rejected from the majority of them.
What do you think is the reason now looking back as a senior engineer?
I think the reason back then is because I had no experience. So I think obviously your first one is always your hardest one.
True.
I applied to as many as possible. Also because usually they'll only accept people in their third or fourth year. So I was in my second year of university. So they'll usually only accept people in their third or fourth year. And then as soon as I got my first one, so I just applied to a ton and I got my first one. And then after getting my first one, it became a lot easier. I think my first one was with a startup called Okendo.
Yeah, I'll come back to that later, the process, but I want to go before that. So looking back as an engineer now, what was the toughest thing about your early days?
I think it had to be like the data structures and algorithms questions. They were very difficult for me in my early days. You're not very used to them. You don't actually know from university or anywhere that those are the questions that you're going to be asked in interviews. So I think it's just a numbers game. So it's like you go into an interview, they ask you a data structures question, you try it, you fail. Now you learn, you go, hey, how do I solve this? Or like, what is the correct solution for this? Or and stuff like that. Obviously, there are tools now for like, you can obviously do leak code or you can do HackerRank or there's endless amounts of those kinds of things. But learning the basic concepts around like linked lists, your data structures, whatever.
All the lists, there's like hundreds of
them, binary trees. But once you like learn all of them, you'll feel a lot more confident. And then that confidence carries through into your interviews. And as soon as you like pass one, I think it's a lot easier after you get through the technical, and it's easier to talk your way through behaviorals and stuff like that.
Yeah. A lot of like computer science students, they have a misconception that you need to have a degree in order to get into IT industry as a software developer or engineer. And some students have believed that if they have a degree, that should be enough to get a job. All right. They don't need any experience or the other skills. And the third misconception they have is that as soon as they finish the degree, they can learn some basic and that's enough to get a job, and they should get a job within a couple of minutes, or everybody wants to get a job in 3 months. So for you, since you started writing to code and taking it seriously until you get a job, how long did it take?
I think a year and a half, 2 years.
Yes.
Is about how long it takes.
That's okay, obvious. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the reason for that is it takes a lot of time to get your fundamentals right. Yeah. Getting your fundamentals right is really important. Fundamentals being like data structures, algorithms, learning how to code, etc. And then it's like a whole bunch of time for applying, getting rejected a lot. Yeah. Having the resilience to push through, and then just keep applying.
What I have also seen that most of the people waste time figuring things out than actually doing productivity tasks. Or actually, even like at the beginning, you don't even know which way to flow data structure algorithm learning process. Should you learn data structure first or the algorithm first? Should you learn X data type versus another one first, right? So, and during the application process, there's a lot of things you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know. So going back there, if you had your brother or somebody in your family or friends who is already working as a software engineer, and if they were a mentor, would you have reduced that time?
I think having a mentor always reduces the amount of time it'll take. My family, we're all software engineers, actually.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
So I did have, my dad and my sister. And my mom used to be similar in IT.
Now you can see where it's all coming from.
Yeah. So I did have like a lot of help in terms of like if I needed advice or anything like that. I had that.
But the question is, did you take it?
Sometimes.
Yeah. That's what happens with the family problem.
Yeah. But I do think like having a mentor really helps. Yeah. Getting guided on like what kind of data structures and algorithms are the most important to learn. I think from my experience just in interviews, the ones that always come up are like BFS, DFS, quicksort, some linked list stuff. I think a lot of the time with linked list stuff, I actually feel like it's always a solution I think of last. Even though it's the most simple.
Yeah.
Usually just if I think about something and I brute force it, it'll usually come out.
Like hash table for most of the solution as well in the data structure.
Yeah, hash table.
Yeah, hash table. So it's a similar thing. The next thing is, did you ever feel like quitting?
The only time I really felt like quitting was when I was at AWS, because AWS was really hard.
Okay, but you're gonna go more in detail, guys.
But otherwise, no. I've liked it since day one, basically, and I kind of knew software engineering at the end of the day was something that would be a really good career. So anytime I had any kind of thought similar to quitting, I just went, no, I really want like the flexibility. I really want the good pay. I really want all these things that come with being a software developer that I know isn't really possible outside of that career.
That's great. First job is always hard. Yeah. So I want other people who is listening, they actually learn something from your process. How did you get that job? Can you walk the process?
Yeah. Honestly, I think it's a lot of like luck.
Okay.
So my first role, it was actually a role which didn't require a technical round. It was just
Okay, yeah, that's luck. Yeah.
that's luck, right? It didn't require a technical round,
Uh-huh.
and they hired me on a part-time basis while I was still in university.
Yep. And that's common. Actually, I look into the data. I think around 8% software engineer are part-time holders.
Yeah.
I looked into August this year's data,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of my students they get part-time developer as well.
But I think it's great. Like if you get a part-time role or if you get an unpaid internship or something like that, it's a great place to be because you're learning, and then while you're there, you can always apply for other places.
That's true.
I don't think there's that much of a stigma around job hopping. Me personally, I've had a job for 5 years now, and I've had 5 different employers.
Okay.
One employer, I was there for 3 days. I don't.
So that didn't list it. Okay.
I don't include that on my resume, but
Okay.
I was there for 3 days.
Okay, maybe you can share some experience around that. At least you should have learned something what not to do kind of thing there. Definitely, I would love you to share that a little bit later. But I'm still on the first job. So how did you get your first job? What gets you your first job?
Yeah,
Because
so
that's the hardest part I want to share with everyone.
yeah, I think for the first job, the most important thing was just applying to a bunch of places. Everywhere that you think you might get good experience or you think you might have something to learn, just apply. Again, because getting the first job is the hardest to get, just apply everywhere and take the first thing that you get. Unpaid, paid, anything. Once you take the first thing, then it's a lot easier, right?
Because you can leverage my experience.
Yeah, you can leverage your experience. I think even like 3 months, 6 months at one place can be enough to make a jump to something more desirable.
True. So what gets you to this first job for you?
I would say just
applying
to a ton of places. Like I probably applied to over 100.
Did you get this job through the job portal or you reach out to the LinkedIn?
I think it was the job pages,
Okay.
like LinkedIn or Seek or
one of the places.
Yeah.
The reason I want to say is that nowadays, not many junior roles and part-time roles you can see in the job portal. It's very competitive. And then I usually prefer a student reaching out company, going through the direct reach out and having people working in the industry like yourself, connecting with them and then build a relation. And then when they have someone to hire, and then you reach out to them.
Yeah,
So,
I've heard that that's a great way to get in.
yeah, there's a bit of work, but that's more working in nowadays. I don't know how it's going to go in a few years, but it's like everything's changing.
Yeah.
Because employers are now demanding more. Like if you look for few junior roles, they want to hire a mid-level engineer and pay junior role.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of the scenario is, and that's why we need to play the game that companies are playing.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to know, like, how did you get it? So they can learn from it. So the lesson here is, guys, apply unpaid, paid, whatever role you can think you can do it, just apply.
Yeah.
That's
even if you can't do it, apply because
you'll learn something.
Yeah. If you can't do it and you make it and you still get the role and you accept it, you'll learn on the job. It's
okay.
It's really not the end of the world.
That's true. But yeah, it's gonna be tough nowadays. But at least applying job itself is skill.
Yeah.
Tailoring resumes, doing follow-ups, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you do enough time, you'll get better at it.
Yeah.
And you have a higher chance of getting the response back.
Yeah. I will say as well, having projects, doing things on the side is always going to help you. Even if it's not directly correlated, it's always going to help you pass the screening. It's really about making it past the screening and getting to the technical, because once you can get to the technical, you can show off your skills. If you don't make it to the technical because your resume isn't good enough, then you lose that opportunity.
Okay, so what's the smallest skills students overlook, but that turn out to be important in the workplace?
I think a skill that I didn't really explore that I think is like so useful is just learning how to write scripts. Because in my day-to-day, a lot of the time when I am bringing a lot of value to my organization, it's actually through a proof of concept script that I've written. To prove something works or to prove that, something can happen, to write a small script that can do it is really important. And it's something that I basically never learned how to do in like university or anything like that. Just like a small Python script where just prove, input, output, proving something can work. Additionally, I think learning like configuration for like from a CI/CD or point of view, or like pipelines really helps. If you get the chance to really try to create a front end and back end that you deploy on some sort of free cloud service, like Firebase, Vercel, something like that.
Yeah.
Try to just deploy something for free. You'll get to experience like what it's like to deploy a service. You never get that experience in a university. At least I don't think so. And it's very valuable in terms of if you have a small dev team, you don't have a dedicated DevOps, and you'll need to know how to do the configuration. You'll need to know how to deploy things safely, stuff like that.
Yeah, true. That's a great advice. The one thing I want to start about the university is that how important it is to have a university degree nowadays to get into the tech.
For 3 of my jobs, I did not have a degree when I got it. I was still doing university, but I applied without the degree. I did not have it yet.
So that's for the listener, because a lot of people have that mindset again. They need to have a degree.
Yeah.
So can we safely say you don't really need to have a degree, but
you don't have to have one? Yeah. It's good to have one, I think.
Yes.
If you already have one, great. But if you don't have one, all you have to do is prove that you have the skills in a different way. And the different way is either experience or projects.
Exactly.
Projects are great because I think with projects you get to showcase what you're passionate about, and companies love people who are passionate.
Yeah.
If you have something that's cool that you've like open sourced and everything, great. If you contribute to open source packages, great. All of these things are experience that shows you have initiative, that shows you have the skills to do their day-to-day job.
That's very important message, because a lot of time, even like last time somebody was saying, I'm already paying 50, 60K studying in the universities. Why do I need to learn to build a project? So just want to give the like a student who have that mindset. Okay, yeah, degree is okay to have it, but that's not enough to get a job.
It's not enough.
Yeah, so you definitely have to spend, like, for example, you spend around 1.5 years building these skills and experience around the project or solving problem, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important. Everybody should have a project and showcase your passion through the project, right? Yeah. Guys, I hope you guys are taking notes and then you're going to follow through that. So you don't spend more than 1.5 years to land the job. So that's the whole game. So as a senior software engineer, what are the mistakes you see junior developers are making? What can you advise them?
I think probably these days it's over-reliance on AI. When you're a junior, it's really important that you actually work through step-by-step the problem rather than have AI do the entire job for you. If I was doing my own project, I would refrain from using AI because the actual learning comes from doing it yourself. And if you're unable to thoroughly check the work of AI, you can't utilize its productivity benefits. It will actually take you longer to get things done than manually if you don't know how to correct it properly.
What happens if you don't know how to code in foundation level and use AI and something goes wrong?
Exactly. You're screwed. If you don't know how to correct it, you just create bugs. You write 10,000 lines, but 8,000 of it's liability. You become someone who adds more work for others rather than someone who saves others time.
Yes, that's true. Now we're gonna move to everybody's dream FAANG company, the career and how you get in there. Anybody? I think a lot of our listeners, they definitely have FAANG company as part of their list. So I want you to share your honest process. How did you get the job, and what thing that's going to help them if they want to work in there, what they should do, what they should be prepared for, and what it's like to work there. So just to give the context, some people may like it, some people may not like it, but just want to give them the reality.
Yeah.
There's a lot of questions I want to ask, but if you walk me through every process, I think you would answer every question I want to ask.
Yeah. So I was at AWS for 2 years. I was in the EC2 networking team. How I got into FAANG was through their graduate program. I was graduating from university. I applied for their graduate program. The interview process is really tough.
Walk me through all.
Yeah.
If you can.
So the interview process, I think, begins, at this point I don't remember, but I know it was at least 6 or 7 rounds. The first being like a HR screening.
Before that, let's talk about the application process, because I know a lot of people want to do it. Let's make it crash course for them so that they can follow.
Yeah.
Based on your experience.
I don't necessarily remember the application process. I think it was just like applying through their job portal. So go to the Amazon job portal, create an account, see what job listings they have open. In this case, it was their graduate program. I applied for that. I applied also at the same time for IMC trading, like quant firms, Google, Atlassian.
So basically, FAANG
I
plus
applied for everything.
the last
on that like FAANG level in Australia, and ended up getting the Amazon offer. So after I applied on their website, essentially, it actually took them quite a while to get back to me. Because I think they just have a lot of applicants from universities at that time. You get, I think the first thing is like a HR screening, where a HR person calls you and just verifies your like details when you're graduating, what kind of skills you have, and then you kind of get passed along to like a online technical, which is I think like a HackerRank kind of test, as well as like a workplace test, which is like it's like a simulation of like you're in a workplace, they play like a video, you make a decision on like what to do, and this is kind of like highlighting your communication skills. It's like presented with a workplace problem, how would you respond? Say like you have a deadline coming up, what should you do? Do you tell your manager, or do you just work overtime to try to get it done on time? And it's these kinds of questions where your communication skills kind of shine. I think in these kinds of interviews, it's always like over communicate. You'll make sure all stakeholders know what's happening and stuff like that.
That's the second round?
Yeah, I think that's the second round. I think rounds 3, 4, and 5 are all technical.
Was that time technical test, whiteboarding test,
live
online
coding
test, or live coding? Okay.
So live coding, it's 3 one-hour tests with 1 data structures and algorithms question per test with 3 different interviewers, and the hiring manager is listening in as well.
Oh, okay.
I think usually it's like around that like leak code medium kind of difficulty for your data structures and algorithms. Usually you're not really expected to hit that optimal solution. You're expected to hit the brute force.
Okay.
And then as long as you're communicating well in the interview, that's walking through your thought process. Breaking down the problem, making sure you're working with the interviewer to kind of break down your understanding of the question, making sure that you're on the right track. As long as you get the brute force solution there and maybe begin on optimizing, I think you'll definitely pass.
Okay.
I don't really remember more of the rounds, but I think it was around 6 or 7 rounds. Yeah.
So basically, we have a screening round and the cultural work environment test, and 3, let's say, technical test, and 1 behavioral with the decision makers. And actually, guys, if you are looking to land a job in FAANG company or Fortune 500 or any large company, every company have a career page, and most of the, especially FAANG company, they already have the interview processes. They actually tell you what they're gonna ask. Like they might not tell you the technical question, but they will tell you everything you need to know. So if you spend enough time, you will really can figure out how to prepare yourself, right?
Yeah, they'll tell you, like, usually I think I've applied at like Google, TikTok, a bunch of places. They all have their interview guides where it tells you exactly like what kind of questions going to be asked. They're going to tell you how to best prepare for it. For every round. So just make sure you're reading all the resources that they give you, because they basically try to give you the answers.
And in terms of the Amazon, I think they focus more on leaderships, right? If you go and look into that questions section, you can find that all information and training as well.
They have their like core values and
essential and core value. That's these 3 things. Most company do care, but I think Amazon is more about for the customer. And their value is all about customer.
I think I'm traumatized at this point hearing the leadership values. People just say it over and over, like, are you being customer obsessed, or are you thinking big, and these kinds of things. But like, that's the company Kool-Aid, right? Like,
that's why AWS is AWS. Few takeaway from there, guys. Remember the interview stages, and if you really want to prepare for it, first thing first, he was graduate. Graduate role is completely different than the actual employee. So employee, if you want to go for employee, most of the company require you to already have 1 year plus experience to even apply. And if you want to go for a graduate program, you need to be in the university, or graduation date is not older than 1 or 2 years. It depends on the company. So just check that out. You can definitely try that out. So you applied on almost all FAANG. Why do you think you rejected from REST and selected in AWS? What made you selected there, you believe, so people learn from you?
I think at the time, when I was applying for everything, I was just going to take one of the top tier companies because I was optimizing for pay. I think in general, most of these companies pay similar amounts, except for trading companies. So these are things like Optivar, IMC Trading, Jane Street, Capital One. These trading companies, like quant firms, they'll pay, I think, like 100K more than FAANG. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
But I think be prepared to work really hard at those companies.
Yeah.
I opted for FAANG, like Atlassian, Canva, Google, Amazon. These are the ones that are active in Australia from a dev point of view. I went with these primarily because I've heard that it's less intense. So it's like good work-life balance as well as high pay.
Was it?
No.
Like,
but that's why I went with Amazon when.
Okay, so let's talk about the work culture in AWS, just so anybody who doesn't know and whether it's right fit for them or not.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of friends at AWS.
Yep.
And the work culture I've heard is very team dependent.
Yep.
So I have some people who I know who say that their job is very chill. It really depends on your team. For me in particular, it was quite stressful. Usually if you're at AWS, if you're with a core service, core services being things like EC2, S3, Lambda, the huge services that everyone knows.
Yep.
You will have an on-call rotation that might be a little bit difficult to manage. The on-call rotation basically means, for those who are unfamiliar, it means that at any time when your service breaks or an alarm fires, your phone will go off and it makes this honestly like traumatizing noise that even to this day, if I hear it, I will like jolt because I would hear this noise at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Every time I was on call. It's just so like you have to wake up at whatever time it is, open up your laptop, figure out what the issue is. If you can't get it done, you roll back or whatever the last changes were, you try to figure it out. If you can't figure it out, you have to escalate, like call other people in, and you're like waking up other people who are at, 2 a.m. and you just feel so bad when doing that.
It's on your shoulder, not me. Don't call me. Something.
Exactly. And so honestly, it was very stressful, that kind of thing.
I got a lot of them.
Yeah. So because I was with EC2,
EC2 is one of the core of.
Yeah.
I think everything runs in AWS is
underlying everything is EC2.
EC2 and everything else on the top.
Yeah. So often the EC2 networking would break for some reason, or the telemetry would tell us we're broken at US nighttime. I mean US nighttime,
but Australian
nighttime. So like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And it's like, do I really have to wake up again and do this?
So before you go to sleep, if you're on call,
praying before I sleep. Yeah.
That's a really traumatizing experience you got there.
Yeah, I think that was like the biggest reason I left.
Guys, just want to clear this. Let's clear it out. It's not about AWS. It's not about AWS culture. It's just the work itself is, I believe, good. The pay was good.
Yep.
Team supportive.
Yep.
Some level. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the problem is the timing.
Yeah.
Right?
I think one thing about like the work culture in general is it's very competitive.
Okay.
Amazon does have a stack ranking culture. I think you can find out this information online.
Oh, okay.
But essentially what that means is you have something called the non-regrettable attrition. And what that means is every year they aim to make like redundant or like get rid of the bottom 10%.
That's the policy started by Microsoft while Bill Gates building the Microsoft. So everybody tried to now follow that.
Yeah. So every year try to get rid of about 10%.
The bottom 10%.
Bottom 10%.
Yep.
Meaning you have a very competitive culture. No one wants to be at that bottom 10%. People get put on performance improvement plans pretty often, PIPs. I think I was never put on one. And essentially a PIP is Amazon's way of saying, hey, we want to get rid of you.
So prove me if you can stay, kind of thing.
Prove to me that you can stay by like working very hard. But most of the time, people will say, I'm just going to find another job. It's like a paid, you're still being paid by Amazon, but go look for another job in that time. That's usually how people treat it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't sound very exciting.
No, not that exciting.
Yeah.
But I think the work is still very interesting. If you enjoy high stress environments where you're working on the most difficult or interesting problems, any like aspiring developer, I would encourage them to apply and work at Amazon or any other of the big FAANG for at least 1 or 2 years. Having that experience under your belt basically means you'll never have to struggle looking for a job ever again. I think since I've worked at Amazon, I've almost had a recruiter in my LinkedIn inbox every week.
Yeah.
There's a recruiter saying, hey, like, looked at your experience, looks great. Do you want to apply for this job?
Yeah.
You'll get fast tracked basically.
Yeah, that's kind of great because the environment is so stress. If you can work there, then you can always work anywhere.
Exactly.
And you basically, company are looking for somebody who gain experience somewhere else and bringing that experience in the company to do the work.
Yeah. I mean, a large part of why I got my senior position at Howdoes, or my most recent place, is because they wanted to bring in like a lot of process or like best practice from one of the largest FAANG companies, right?
That's important here.
Yeah.
Especially the startups and the growing startups.
Yeah.
They don't have a process in place. Even they have, it takes a lot of time and a lot of consultant to create the process in optimal level. Like I am still struggling to get our process in that level, you know?
Yeah.
So that's really like important skill you learn that otherwise you wouldn't have learned anyway.
Yeah.
Anybody dreaming to work in a FAANG company, as you heard a little bit, so you know now how to get into that. The process, you heard it, and you also heard the culture. Okay, during the interview, there are like multiple interviews. Probably there were hundreds of applicants. Tell me why you got selected.
I think the biggest reason I got selected was I already had about 2 years of experience under my belt by the time I graduated. So again, start stacking up the time because that's what sometimes people care about. I don't agree with caring about the time.
Yep.
But a lot of companies do just care that you have that years of experience.
Yep.
So 1, I had 2 years of experience under my belt already. 2, I already had projects that I've worked on. During the interview, I always talked extensively about the projects that I've worked on. Like, they were a lot more interesting than often the work that I was doing. I know that for one of the projects, I was working with a university professor, and we were working on like organ matching algorithms. So these are like algorithms you use. Yeah, they're like algorithms you use to basically compute like, and in pretty quickly, how you can send organs through a cycle to satisfy people's like compatibility. So as you know, like organs aren't necessarily compatible with everyone. So let's say your daughter or your son has an issue with their kidney. You don't have a compatible kidney with them. And then there's another pairing who also have that issue. But maybe you're compatible with them and they're compatible with you.
Okay.
And so writing these like kind of graph algorithms to compute how to like, you know, put these pairings together, these cycles, within the time frame that organs only last like 3 hours.
Okay.
Right? So like once someone passes away or something like that,
Yeah.
they only last like a couple hours. So you might be able to get this organ to complete this pairing, which then completes that pairing, which then, you know, and it's like a fairly complex problem. And so being able to talk about that in like the interview, I think was a great point for the hiring manager, knowing that, you know, I've worked on really complex problems before. And I think it's a great point to showcase.
That's true. So that's why the projects are really important. And usually even like if I look into the hiring perspective, I want to see the thought process, you know, and where did you even come for the solution? So that really tells a lot about you, you know?
Yeah.
Now asking that question, just curious, how did you get to that project?
I applied through university. So it was like
part of the university project.
Part of university.
So it was like just as a common student, how that for like problem came to mind. I was like curious.
Yeah, no, it was the university professor basically said, hey, we're looking for students to help with this problem. And I was like, okay, I'll apply. They just took me on and I started working on that, but
And that really helped you.
it really helped me, being able to talk about like a complex problem like that.
That's great. Okay, let's move on to your current role and the AI.
Yeah.
So that we can skip that topics. So let's start with the very common question. AI is huge now, not a buzzword anymore. Everybody knows that. So the common question, will AI replace developers?
I don't think so. I don't think you're ever going to get to a point where you can replace developers completely. What it is replacing though is code cutters. So I think there's a very different there's a big difference between, I would say, an engineer and a code cutter.
Yeah.
A code cutter is, I guess, someone who just takes a ticket, and these are like what a lot of junior engineer roles are. That you take a ticket and you work through that ticket with very easy steps.
Yeah.
And then you work it through to completion, and then you say it's done.
Yeah.
That I think AI can almost do. Not yet, but in 5 years, definitely. What it can't do is a lot of like product-minded things. What you're seeing, I think now, is you're seeing a lot of product managers take on AI tools and becoming kind of developers.
Yeah, like developer.
But you're also seeing a lot of developers move into that product role as well. Rather than replacing people, I think it's more becoming like one person can do multiple things at once.
Yeah.
And so, no, I don't think developers will be replaced, but I do think there will be more jobs where you're required to do more things than just one.
Yeah. And then, for example, there's always something in the backlog.
Yeah.
Right? The backlog is never empty.
Never ending.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
So in the past, if we close 100 tasks per month, then it's just going to be maybe 1,000 tasks completed.
Exactly.
But that as a human, as an engineer or a product mind engineer, will come up with more backlog
to
complete more problem.
Exactly.
And they try to explore more solution. And if that doesn't work, then basically it's going to help us become better, explore better problem, solve better way.
Exactly.
It's just going to add more the backlog, right?
Yeah.
So somebody has to just continue doing that. I never heard saying, okay, we out of like backlog.
Yeah, backlog's empty. Never heard.
I never heard.
Yeah.
So AI is just speeding that up.
Yeah. Additionally, with like AI, you're able to solve so many more ambiguous problems. Like I would guess tons and tons of companies wouldn't exist today without the possibility of that AI provides. You're going to have so many more companies trying to solve so many different and more complex issues. At the end of the day, you're always going to need more engineers to be able to, one, like check what AI is doing. Like,
exactly,
it'll hallucinate. You need to make sure it's on the right track. And then two, like really design the solutions. Things that AI really can't get right now are things like scaling, are things like database optimization. These kinds of things where the AI isn't just doing strict business logic. They're going to be there for a while.
I think before we send AI to the production of the database optimization, I don't know, maybe another 5 to 10 years, because imagine what happens. I have brought down the database on production once in the small company.
Yeah.
Haven't slept well in the whole night just to, restore that.
Yeah.
Imagine if we give large scale multi-sharding database access to the AI, what would it do?
Exactly.
Even if it makes 0.0001% mistake, that's going to crumble up the whole entire company.
Yeah, I mean, I think you saw there was a company that had the AI delete the entire...
I heard that news, but I don't know exactly in detail. I heard like a little bit some way.
Yeah, I think it was like they had a code freeze or something like that going on, and then they told the AI explicitly, hey, don't do anything during this time, but it went and deleted the database, I think.
That's also a disaster, especially in the large company. That's like every minute, millions of dollar transactions.
Yeah, exactly.
So we are not in there yet. And even though we are there, basically it's replacing coder.
Yeah.
Not the developer.
Yeah.
Or engineers or product developer.
Yeah.
That's why I always teach my student, become a product developer, not the coder only.
Exactly.
I never even, like, from the beginning, before pre-AI era, you can literally Google the code syntax.
Yeah.
That's not what you should be learning. Yeah, you need syntax in order to complete the feature, but your goal should be edgy even learning, learn the possibilities, what you can do using the code. You don't need to remember the syntax.
Exactly.
Right? You can find that out. Like there's hundreds of resources online.
Yeah.
You could Google it. Once you know how it looks like, next thing all you need to do is find out, copy, paste it, make it work. If work, yeah, that's the one. If you repeat that multiple times, you'll remember.
Exactly.
Right? Now AI can do that part.
Yeah, exactly. This is like precisely why I said the thing you need to focus on is learn how to solve problems.
True.
Because once you learn how to solve a problem, you become a product engineer. And product engineers are never going away. I think product managers might go away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a different guys. Yeah. Can you give slight different like roles between product engineer and product manager for somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah. So in my mind, a product engineer is essentially an engineer who has all the technical skills, but engages in a lot of product work. And what product work is, it's like really designing your product to make sure it's fit for purpose for your customers. Fit for purpose means it's actually doing what the customers need it to do.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's kind of what a product engineer is. It's just an engineer
engineering the solution.
Yeah, you have an engineer who knows how to design the product in a way that it can properly solve the customer's issue. In comparison, a product manager is kind of someone who just manages delivery, who used to scope kind of what the product should do, but they don't necessarily have the technical skill to execute on it. I think nowadays you're probably more likely to run into product engineers than necessarily have that many product managers.
Yeah, there's a lot of news is coming that project manager is like AI is taking over. It's all about just managing the team, managing team efficiency, and then writing a bunch of documentation and sharing between the team. Which, if you product engineer can define everything in detail, AI can do that.
Yeah, and also the product engineer knows what's exactly possible, whereas the product manager might not know, or they'll have to ask an engineer what's possible.
Yeah,
and so that's why you can very easily see the product engineer taking over the role of a product manager, especially at smaller companies.
Yeah.
At larger companies, I can see maybe there's more communication tax. You need to talk to this team, this team, this team.
There is a rule of hierarchy, and then the protocol, how to communication. That's completely a different structure. But over the time, I think, that like product manager will be less in demand than product engineer. Yeah, that's I can see that too. Now, coming to the AI again, what are the use cases of AI you have seen or you have implemented in your company? Just to give anybody who wants to get into the AI, what are the things they will be exploring in the future? I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but as of today, what are the use cases have you seen successfully used?
Yeah, so I think contrary to popular belief, I think like the chatbot is probably the worst usage of AI.
Okay.
It's not that useful, I don't think. But where I think AI really shines is turning unstructured data into structured data. So that's where I really think AI shines. It's basically taking something that's like a text, like, a whole bunch of text, and extracting the insights and data that you want out of it into a structured format.
Mm-hmm.
That's like what I feel is the best use of AI right now, where let's say you can take like all the comments from your Instagram post, something like that, and then doing a sentiment analysis. It's great at doing that. You can basically say, here's that text, how do they feel about it? And then give it certain categories that it can place it in, like great, good, bad, neutral, whatever. And turning that unstructured data into structured data is incredibly useful.
Do you use AI a lot in your life as well as at work? If you do, where and how, if you don't mind sharing it?
At work, I use Claude Code.
Okay. Why Claude Code? Why not, let's say, Copilot? Why not Cursor? It's just a vibe. Context.
It's just a vibe for me. I just think Claude Code, I just like it better. I've tried other tools. I think Claude Code just does the best at like doing what I want it to do. And so it's just a vibe, honestly.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's at work. That's how I use AI. In my
how many % of your core writing code do you do with Claude Code now?
I would say
just part of the coding. As a senior engineer, guys, don't mix with the junior engineer though.
Yeah, I think maybe only like 40-50%.
Okay.
I'll usually start with Claude Code, and then I'll be like, I'll make the manual changes myself.
Okay.
Or I need to, if I do start with it, I need to direct it very well. I need to be like, in this file, make this change, in this file, make that change, in this file, make that change, and then verify that I've not missed anything. That's kind of how I do things.
Okay. What percentage of the productivity have you seen on yourself?
I think I probably produce things about 50% faster.
Yeah.
I know some people will say like 200%, 300%, but realistically, it's like 50%, I would say.
Anybody who wants to, as a, let's say, going from junior to senior engineer, can you give them your tips, how you use it to create the precise code so that you do less editing? How do you structure your prompting or write the PRD or the feature? So what's your process on it? To create like AI can produce the code.
Yeah.
The quality code comes based on the quality input you provide.
Yeah,
right?
I think the quality input really comes from thinking about the problem again. So it's not like I don't have to give it an entire PRD for it to do what I want well.
Yeah.
I just need to be precise about what I tell it to do. So an example of this, if I said, create me a form that does this, instead of saying, create me a form that does X, I would say, create me a form, make the title this, add an input like this, add another input like this, make the sizing about this much. I'm very precise about what I want, and then it will produce it very well. If I'm imprecise, it will just assume and do it wrong.
That's true. And that's where the hallucination happens and they blame LLM.
Yep. But really, it's just you're not being detailed enough. You're not being specific enough.
Yeah, that's very true. Because I'm always learning and curious about how company are, because AI was hype but potential has grown here for sure. But AI adoption in the industry is maybe still here.
Yeah.
Right. And this filling gap is basically the many reason why the gap is there. Yeah. First thing first, compliance. Yeah. And then second thing, there are not great engineers to do this integration. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And not enough good consultant to understand the business problem to show how they can actually integrate in a way that is going to help company benefit from it. So just always curious about how company are using that part.
Yeah, I mean, tons of companies are using like MCP servers to do integrations.
Yeah.
So like an example of this is like Figma, for example. They have MCP integration with like AI agents so that essentially you can have a design be sent to your coding agent, and then the coding agent can actually look at the design and use the design to create the component in code rather than describing it. Like, again, I think the main use case of AI is in turning unstructured data into structured data. One example is for some applications that I've seen pop up in like the startup space, they're using social media to...
Content distribution, you mean?
No. Like they'll use like social media like TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that. And they're taking the content and they're essentially saying, hey, like, where is this location? And you can actually take that unstructured data. It's like user-generated content. And you can think like, where is this location? Or like, what is the sentiment? Or, you know, all these kinds of things.
Try to understand the content.
And you can transform it into other information. So one example is I saw an app where you basically take some content from TikTok and Instagram and you basically say, put this on a map for me. And so now, you actually have like this content, which is like a bar in like Sydney.
Yeah.
And you don't know where it is. The content creator might not have said exactly where it is, but you send it to AI. AI does what AI does. It makes some guesses and it tries to find the place based on like pictures and other things that's in the training data.
Yeah.
And then you can actually link that up with other APIs because now it's structured. You have a guess. Yeah. And so now you can normalize that data using like Google, for example, and boom, you have structured data that's consistent across the web.
That's great, but it sounds danger. If you're just sharing some of your photo, exactly. It is private photo, then now
exactly
it's a danger basically.
Yeah, right? like people can use that information however they want.
Yeah, actually, I even tried this like a few months ago. Somebody posted photo in Instagram with a nice the Harbour Bridge view, and saying this is where my view looks like from my home.
Yeah, and then you can figure out.
I was like curious. Where would that be? Because I'm very well around the Sydney area. I try to guess is that view is from that area. And just to test my knowledge, I just put that photo in ChatGPT and gave, pretty satisfying answer.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful, but sounds pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a little bit scary. Like AI is all new, and like the amount of things that you can do with it is just growing.
Yeah.
That again, like people are very scared about like deep fakes, like these kinds of things where you can fake someone's voice and then, maybe get their family to give you their bank number and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of innocent people out there too.
Yeah.
I exactly have a question around that as well, because you already work in AI compliance company. You know a lot about compliance and then how we should treat the client data in general. Yeah. Can you tell me what is going on behind the scene in terms of this? How do you think companies should handle user data and privacy? How they are handling, including these big, large LLMs to small startups?
I think a lot of companies are using in-house models to protect data. So what that means is a lot of companies will white label. If you're unfamiliar with what white labeling is, it's taking like an open source model and then just putting your brand over it and then saying like, there's not.
It's our product.
Yeah, it's our product.
And they're hosting on their own server, somewhere in the cloud.
Yeah. So what that means is, for example, like Perplexity, if you're familiar, I think what they're doing under the hood is they'll take like a DeepSeek model and they'll deploy it on their own servers. And so technically, yes, it's air gapped, and their data is secure and everything, but it's just white labeled DeepSeek. I think that's what they're doing. Obviously, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing that kind of like air gapping, on-premises deployments, these kinds of things to protect user data from flowing out.
How well do AI handle that part?
Like AI companies will tell you that they aren't using any of the data for any extra training.
Yeah.
But I don't know how true that is either.
We can't really tell about that. But do you believe all these AI company or the large language model creators doing enough protecting user data? Do you believe, in your opinion? Let's take it that way. Because you work with a lot of AI product, and then you are like very close.
I think so. So I think they do a lot of filtering for like data sources and stuff like that to make sure that nothing like personally identifiable is like there. I think. I think they're doing quite a lot in that space. But again, it's a very hard problem to solve. So
if they don't have data, they can train, and they can train proprietary data, or if they don't have enough data, that's like chicken and egg situation at some point. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember a news a few months back that the
Cloudflare?
Not the one Cloudflare, that's a different one. They have to pay because they train the model based on the books, private books. That was, I think, Anthropic, I think.
Yeah.
I think they are the one, right?
Yeah.
I believe they found that they've been using the private books information to train the model.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, same as like art, right? Like if you ask image generation or video generation, it's always taken from somewhere.
Yeah.
It's all kind of stolen, if that makes sense. I think it's such a hard problem to solve because I definitely see the value in AI and the value that AI can bring, but also you shouldn't be able to steal all the content from like real people and then claim the profit for your own, even though most AI companies are not profitable. Eventually, if, for example, like Midjourney is like incredibly profitable, it's like, what about all the artists who created the art that your AI is trained on? Like, how do you make sure they are fairly compensated?
True.
I think that's why like a ton of the training data comes from Reddit or Stack Overflow.
Yeah, there was research done as well.
Yeah, and it's like Reddit and Stack Overflow, like they don't get paid for it, but maybe they would start charging or something like that for the data. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think that's something we really want to know more in detail, but something we can really talk about it either.
Yeah.
About the privacy data and the way they use it. Okay, let's move from there. What skills should students build so they can work with AI instead of worrying about it?
I think the biggest things is to experiment with the technology. It's very easy to experiment these days. So one recommendation I have is always go to AI Google Studio. You can just get a free API key and you can experiment with using a generative model in your own code. Experiment with the Pydantic AI framework. It's how a lot of people will structure their AI data these days. It's incredibly useful to just play around with the technology, see what you can do using AI. Again, write a script that does something for you. I made a website for my girlfriend where essentially you just upload an image and it creates little stickers based on the image.
Okay.
Using an image gen model. That's just something I just experimented with because I was like, hey, how do image gen models work? Or how can I send a prompt to an image gen model and return that in code? A lot of people will just do experimentation with prompts. I don't think that's enough. I think experimenting it with in code really helps with knowing how the AI will work and how you can use it in your role. Yeah. So again, AI Google Studio, get your free API key. You can use their like free, like Lovable / like Bolt kind of in there as well. It's like, it's great to use. And then experiment with using it in code. You can take the code snippets from there, from AI Google Studio to use the model in a Python script or whatever. That's great. And then also experiment with turning that data into structured data. So ask it like, if you like give it like web search, for example, you can ask it to return the weather to you, but then make sure it's in like a weather dictionary, and then just, play around with that kind of thing. And you'll kind of see the power of like, you can turn basically a user query into structured output.
Yep.
Very easily. Yeah.
Let's talk about the debut.
Yeah.
Tell me about the debut.
So
before you go, give the context, what it is, why you did it, when you did it, and how it's playing.
Yeah, so DaveBot is essentially a pet project of mine that I have. It's just an open source Python script where there's a CLI and user interface where you essentially give it a prompt and it has access to the Git tracked files, and you basically ask it to make code edits for you. It's a very kind of rudimentary Claude code, and I built it just for fun. Previously, I was just like copy pasting files into Gemini, and I was asking Gemini, hey, like rewrite this, but with this modification. I essentially took that concept and said, hey, what if my Gemini could view all other files in the Git, could intelligently select which files to read, could search using grep or other like tools, could search the code base for other instances of code that I mentioned and stuff like that. And essentially, it goes and creates a high-level plan for you. You approve of the plan, and then it goes and executes by rewriting all the files it plans to rewrite. It's a very simple version of Claude Code, essentially, but I created it, I think, beginning of this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Great. The reason I brought that as well is that we already discussed about how important it is for junior engineers or aspiring developer to build a side project.
Yeah.
What do you think about how important it is for mid-level engineer or even senior engineer to work on side projects?
I think it's always important to work on side projects. It's a great way to expand your skill set outside of work. From working on DaveBot, I actually brought in a lot of the learnings that I had from that into my workplace, and obviously there's some benefits there. Like people at work probably think I'm smarter than I really am because I'm bringing in technologies just from experience.
True.
I've experienced building like this agentic thing with like tool calls and stuff like that we didn't previously have at the company. It's really important you do that because the best way to learn is always to do
the project.
Yeah,
that's great advice. Okay, little bit more about as an engineer lifestyle. So the critical decision you have to take as an engineer and how you handle it.
I think the most critical things that's like the scariest kind of decisions you have to make are the ones where it might take months to prove that you're right or whether you're wrong. It's like if you choose to invest in working on this project and you're not being wrong,
okay,
and you've wasted 3 months and you're at a startup that's doesn't have that much cash, it really cares about the time, like it's such a heavy decision. And I think that's why I say it's really important to know how to script and prove whether you're right quickly or prove whether you're wrong quickly. You never want to be in a situation where it's going to take you a month to prove whether you're right or wrong.
Fail fast.
Yeah, fail fast, iterate fast. That's kind of the takeaway.
Okay, aspiring developers are feeling uncertain due to the tech layoffs lately, right? But what's the truth behind it, and what do you want to advise to aspiring developer? because they're kind of taking back step.
Yeah, I think like the reality is it is difficult because you have all these tech layoffs and you have these mid-level engineers who now have to apply for these junior roles as well. And there's just far more competition on that lower end of the developer spectrum. The key advice is to work on the things on the side to really upskill yourself and differentiate yourself through projects. I think people really care about how passionate you are or how much initiative you show prior to interviews and stuff like that. A big reason why a lot of these tech layoffs are happening is because they think that they can get the labor for cheaper. I don't think necessarily the jobs are disappearing. I think they're just coming back a little bit cheaper.
It's just the politics game, and they don't really tell the truth behind. Yeah, sometimes they're trying to save the money for other purpose, and they're just firing devs saying. And I also heard this opinion from somebody saying, especially these agentic code tools, they're trying to showcase their tools is really great for the sales and marketing perspective. And for that reason, they're also doing some firing to prove that, saying, hey, we use that and it's doing great thing, you buy now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because as we discussed already, there will be always required for junior developer. So, but don't stay junior. As simple as that, right? While you're learning, don't stay junior.
Yeah, you have to evolve. You have to make it to a senior level quickly. I think I think that's kind of what I tried to do. Like at Amazon, I was a junior engineer, and then my next rollout, I'm a senior engineer.
Yeah, because you did a lot of work in that.
Yeah, and once you get the responsibility, you end up learning so much. I think I've learned more in the 6 months that I've been at Haast than I did at 2 years at Amazon. I learned way more because I have more responsibility.
Yeah, that can be replicated as a student or junior developer in the like a practicing project. Work with other developer, invite them, simulate large project, and then take responsibility.
Exactly. When you do a project by yourself, you're immediately the principal engineer, right?
That's the concept to the production.
Yeah,
everything
you literally have to do everything yourself. So if you do deployment, if you do the version control, if you do everything, you're gonna get some sort of baseline understanding of everything, which is important.
Yeah, I think that's where every junior gonna need to be, I guess. So guys, we are almost close to the end. I just want to ask a few more questions to advise junior engineers. So if you had to start from zero tomorrow, what's the first step you'd take?
I think the first thing is always, for me, I've loved to always solve problems. I just want to reiterate, like finding the problems in your life or finding things that you're passionate about in your life that you want to automate and just going and doing it. That's just what I would do. Like
basically solve the problem, build a project.
Yeah, build a project, solve a problem.
That's great advice. Next, if student listening feel stuck and worry about the future, what would you tell them?
If you're worried about the future, I think realistically, as long as you keep trying, like you keep trying your best, you're going to be fine. You keep trying your best, you keep learning, you keep evolving, regardless of what happens with AI, regardless of what's happening right now in the job market, you're going to make it eventually. AI is not going to replace all engineers. You're going to be okay.
I think most of the time that fear comes from not knowing a lot of things.
Yeah.
I think putting foot in the game will teach them a lot.
Yeah.
And then just take the wave, adapt it, learn it, and become future ready.
Yeah.
I think that would help to at least remove some of the fear and give you the reality, so you know exactly how to be prepared, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's great advice. How mid-level developers should prepare for becoming to senior engineer?
If you're a mid-level engineer, I would say the biggest thing is becoming more familiar with more technologies. So the value of a senior engineer is not in how much code they create or even just how good they are at algorithms and data structures. It's not that. It's all about what technologies you know of, what libraries you know that can save organizations tons of time. You're not an additive person, you're a multiplicative person. So what that means is you're great at mentoring junior engineers. So get some experience doing that. Like spend some time doing code reviews and helping your juniors level up. If you're a mid-level, research more like up and coming technologies that might help your company. Do more experimentation. Try to get more responsibility when it comes to scoping. These are the kinds of things that really help you move up into that senior level role compared to a mid-level where I see A mid-level is someone who is a junior, but they don't need as much help, is
Okay.
kind of the way I see it.
Yeah. So can we boil down to say either find a way to save money for the company or help company make more money?
Not necessarily. I would say it's more like when you're going from a mid-level to a senior, it's about being someone who's making decisions. If you're making decisions or you're helping inform decisions,
Mm-hmm.
you're a lot more of the way there.
Okay. So learn to become a great decision maker. Any advice how they should be preparing any book to read or any practice they should practice in daily life?
I wouldn't recommend any books necessarily because I think everything these days is like quite outdated. I think the major piece of advice is just trying to do more. If you feel like you're getting stuck doing the exact same thing every day and you want to level up, you should just ask for more responsibility from your manager. If they think you're prepared to do that, they will give you more responsibility.
That makes
People
sense.
people love being able to give people more work, you know?
But people try to even cheat the work.
Yeah.
You know, people don't like to do more work.
Yeah, exactly. But if you're someone who wants to level up, you gotta do more. You gotta be willing to take on a bit more, to be able to get there.
Great advice, guys. I hope you are going to take more tasks, more responsibility, go more senior. I think that's all I have for now to ask. Is there anything we miss that could have been really valuable for aspiring developers?
I think one big thing, I would say is just a lot of it is showing up every day and just persevering through the hardships. Like sometimes things will get tough, whether that's in your application process, at your job, or things like that. Always push through and just work through it. Make sure you're always learning. And if you're in a role, always be willing and have your eyes open to new opportunities. The best way to grow your career is to move jobs.
Amazing advice. And especially for the junior, if you don't quit, universe will find a way for you.
Yeah.
Thank you, David, so much. You provided really valuable information. It's just about how aspiring developer takes in. But guys, if you didn't get any value, then go back, listen again. There's tons of value. Try to understand what he did, like to progress his career, from starting from the mindset to getting the first role to going from like literally junior to senior in short period of time, which is very impressive. And you guys can learn that. Like they say, success leaves clue, right? Here is the clue for you guys. Of course, you need to take action. Learning, writing down in the paper will not definitely only help. You need to take action. If you need more help or if you want to know how to something, you might even reach out to David when you have time. Probably he'll get back to you. If not, don't head for him. Just write comment in the video. I'll try to help you guys out too. Hey guys, we are now into the show. I hope you found tons of valuable information. And guys, please take the valuable information and apply to it. As I said before, if you don't apply, if you don't change the behavior, you are really learning nothing. And do commit. So I'll make it easy for you. So write down 3 things you learn and you want to apply immediately in the comment. So you publicly announcing it. So it's most likely to happen for you. And thanks for staying all the way to the end. If you have any question that you would like me to ask to my future guest, please write down that as well. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. Thank you. I'll see you on the next podcast. And thank you, David. Thank you so much for your time and valuable information.
Yeah, thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.